Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about loading those material fonts locally. So out of the box, MyListing loads what's called material fonts, material icons. And those are icons that appear all over a MyListing website. I'll show you exactly what those are here in a second. But this video is going to go along with a revamped guide that I just went through before this video. And it just has to do with loading these locally for performance reasons. So you don't have to make that round trip external HTTP request to grab those fonts. They're already going to be hosted on your server. And it's also good for GDPR hosting any of these Google fonts locally, okay? So let's go ahead and dive in here from the MyListing Club website. That's mylisting.club. You can click on the menu up here at the top and go to Resources. And then we're going to just type in here in the keywords material. What we're looking for is a guide. We've got some resources that we're going to be calling upon, some individual resources, but we want to start with the guide because the guide is the central starting point and it's going to pull in those other resources. Okay, so we can go ahead and filter by guides here, just so you know for sure under the guides. And we're looking for host material fonts locally for better performance. So this is the guide we're going to be working from right here. I've got that pulled up on my other screen and we're going to follow along exactly with this guide, okay? Before we dive in, I promised to show you the material fonts and what they are. So here we are on one of the MyListing demos. And if we were to inspect some of these icons here, so let's do this little, actually, you know what, let's go to the Explorer page. It's easy to find some here. See this little drop down arrow here for the select? See that? So if we inspect this, we're going to see over here on the right-hand side in our inspect tools, font family, material icons, .mis, okay? So that's one example. This bookmark here, this heart, I think is one as well. Yeah, here we go. Font family MI, material stands for material icon. So that's two examples really quickly. That's what we're trying to host locally to speed up our sites, okay? Here in PageSpeed Insights, I've pulled this up. My preferred tools, I like to run PageSpeed Insights and webpagetest.org. Those are the two that I like to run. So I quickly dropped the link to my my test, my listing site in there. I dropped it in there, and here we go. We want to go under eliminate render blocking resources. Typically on a MyListing website, because they involve, you know, the theme itself, Elementor, WooCommerce, Elementor Pro potentially, whatever other plugins, render blocking resources, typically the #1 culprit I see as far as performance bottlenecks. They need to get fixed. When they say render blocking, think of it like a roadblock in front of a block party outside or a parade outside or something like that. Yeah, any of those kinds of examples where you can eventually break through the roadblock, the barriers, and you can get to the goods, you can get to the party, you can get to the parade, you can get to the celebrity that's on the other side, whatever that may be. You'll break through those roadblocks eventually, but it's going to slow you down. And sometimes it's going to slow you down a lot. Think of these render blocking resources as the same thing. You can break through them and you're going to break through them eventually, but the goodies underneath there that you want to load right away cannot load until the render blocking stuff loads, okay? So you want to try to get these out of the way, get those roadblocks out of the way so you can get to that party faster, okay? So let's go ahead and expand, eliminate render blocking resources. And the one in particular we're looking at for this video is right here. We see that it's shown under Google Fonts, which if you're not familiar, it is a GDPR concern if you're hosting those on the Google servers. Okay, so you want to pull those in locally. It helps with GDPR and performance. Okay, so performance is really what we're targeting here in this video. So we want to get these Google fonts, material icon fonts on our server. So that's where we're going to pull them from. Okay, so we'll go ahead and leave that up, and I'll just go ahead and duplicate this tab. And let's go ahead and dive in here with our guide. Okay. I'm going to quickly show you here what we're looking for. Also, if you use another tool like webpagetest.org, and that's where this screenshot comes from here. So you might see something like that. Okay. Okay. So implementation, the very first thing we want to do is we want to browse to Google's material icons page. So that's this guy right here. Okay. The very next step we want to do is we want to look at this line right here, the source line, this one right here. We want to copy this URL, the entire URL. So as highlighted here, starting with HTTPS, and then it ends in the .woff2. That's a font file format, okay? So you want to copy all of that. So we're going to copy. You can also just click on this go to whatever that, so it's going to open another tab. You can do it that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this for the purposes of this video and drop it right here in the URL bar. Boom. As soon as we do that, we see down here in my lower left of my screen, that font file has automatically downloaded to my computer, okay? Using a tool like FileZilla, it's what I use to browse the files of all of my servers and clients and things like that. You can use a plugin for this, like File Manager plugin. I recommend not using that. It's just one more plugin you don't need. Just FileZilla is free. It's super simple. It's like browsing a file system. It's really simple, which you'll see right here. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take that file that just dropped to our workstation and bring it up to our server. So for that, we're just going to browse the public folder, WP content, and then uploads. Okay. Let me refresh on the left-hand side. This is the left-hand side looks at your computer. I mean, you can also configure this differently, but the left-hand side of FileZilla looks at your computer. The right side looks at your server. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh the left side. Here's that file that I downloaded. Okay. All I'm going to do is just drag this to my uploads folder. Boom. Okay. So now that font file no longer lives on Google. Well, it does, but we've pulled it into our local server. We just need to now call upon this file. Okay. All right. So next up, we need to go and load the Material Fonts CSS package. So this is in the guide. If you're following along the guide, it's a link to the CSS package. And what it says, I'm going to show you right here. You're going to want to grab this snippet. Okay. So just copy. What do the instructions say? Paste the file name of the downloaded material font file in the appropriate spot on line 5. So we see line 5 here. Okay. All we're going to do is just take that file name and paste it in here. Okay. So I'm going to show you that. Okay. So I've copied the CSS package. I'm going to minimize FileZilla. I'm going to go back to my sandbox, my test site over here. And using WP Code Box, you can use whatever method you use to add CSS to your website. I just prefer WP Code Box. Okay, so I'm going to do a new snippet, and I'm going to call this local material. You can call it whatever you want. Local material font. I'm going to change the type to CSS. I'm going to drop in that code from the MyListing Club website. And we see here, again, those instructions, line 5, put your font file name here, okay? So when that downloaded, here's that font file name, okay? So all I'm gonna do is just right click on this. Actually, Windows makes it a little different. I'm gonna capture that entire font file name right there. So copy that. I'm gonna go back to my CSS and I'm gonna put that right in here. Okay, that didn't go in exactly as planned. So let me just clear all that out. Okay, after that slash, you just put in the file name right like that. Okay, save that and enable it. Okay, so at this point, we've told our website to load our material icons from our local server. Okay, so we're almost there. The final step in this is we now need to tell MyListing not to load those font files. Okay, we're just saying, MyListing, I don't need you anymore for these. We just get out of the way. Okay, so there's a link in the guide to this as well, and then I'll quickly show you this. It's really simple. It's just another snippet. You're just going to grab this code snippet. Okay, and we're going to go back into WP Code Box, new snippet. The type is PHP, so all we're going to do is just drop the code in after that PHP line. Save it, enable it, and that's it. Okay. We do need to give it a name though, so we'll give it local. Give it the same name. Different snippet types, so it's not going to matter because in WP Code Box it's going to allow you to get to sort easily because of those icons and whatnot. So you can see this one's CSS, this one's PHP based on the icons. So not a big deal. So there we go. Just like that, we should be done. Okay, so let's go ahead and once that's done, let's rerun this test, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. So the very last part of the guide, which is what we're doing now, it's verifying the success. We want to verify that, in fact, that it has dropped out of our render blocking resources list, and that the material icons are appearing and they look okay, and that sort of thing. Okay. So let's go back to our render blocking resources here, and we see that it's still in there. And the reason for that is likely caching. So let's go back to our site. Let's clear our caching. The only caching I have on this test site is just the server cache. So if you've got CDN or plugins caching, doing that kind of thing, make sure you clear all levels of your caching. Okay. So I've done that. Let's go ahead and rerun this test again. Let's go back to our render blocking resources, and it is still there, and I do not know why. So let's go back over here. Let's clear those caches one more time. And let's rerun. All right, let's go down to render blocking resources again. There we go. So it just took a couple times. You got to clear that cache until it's gone. Okay, so now we see before we saw these two entries under Google Fonts, and here was the one we saw right here for material fonts. That is now gone. Okay, not there. And we see I'm not a scores person. Scores from these tests are just indications that something is going really well or really, really wrong. It's not the end-all be-all indicator of how your site's doing. In this case, we saw a mobile score of 59. We saw a high desktop score. Again, this is just a very basic site. There's not much going on, so I would expect that desktop score to be pretty high. 59 on mobile with doing hardly any optimization is good, but again, we have not a lot of plugins or anything running. So, yeah, so this is an indication. I point that out to say, when we look at this other tab, how it's performing now, just by making that one change, we've now jumped from 59 to 70. So if you're a scores person and that means a lot to you, then you see just in that one simple change how that jumped, okay? What was desktop before was 95 and 97. So if you're a scores person again, then that's a really cool win there. But the main important part is that you got that render blocking resource out of the way. And just a really quick bonus before we go on, and we just look at those material icons and make sure that they work. This is where perf matters really comes into play. This is kind of a side tangent, but this is why I harp on, I can't imagine having a MyListing website. Even I can't imagine having an Elementor website, especially in a WooCommerce site, without perf matters. What you just saw there is what perf matters shines at. It's removing these render blocking resources and loading assets in a way that is best for your website. So if I just a quick side tangent here, if we look at this top entry here, this says WooCommerce blocks vendor. I would venture to say nobody is ever going to use that, or well, it'll be years probably before anyone needs to use that. That one, you can use perf matters and kill that one. Next down, block style, kill that one. Same thing. Classic themes can go away. That third one can be killed. WooCommerce, that WooCommerce CSS file is not needed on a homepage. That's 4 render blocking resources off the top of my head that you can get rid of. And there's more. If I went down through all these, I can probably get rid of all of these, if not all but a few. I could probably very easily in this video in 5 minutes bring the score up to the 90s, just by using perf matters to make those tweaks. Okay. That was just a side tangent. I get the deal for perf matters through the club. You'll thank me later. It's huge. Anyway, side tangent. Let's look at that. Let's look at the front end of the site and look at our icons, just make sure they look okay. Let's see here. This might be one. It is. There we go. So material icons. Cool. Yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. This is just it's just one of those things that adds up. I always say, I preach on it. Everything adds up. This may seem like a small thing, but when you add everything up, it really slows down your site. Just start knocking these things down one by one, and you'll have a fast MyListing site. A lot of people say you can't get a MyListing website fast. That's bullcrap. You can't get an Elementor site fast. That's also bullcrap. You can't get a WooCommerce website fast. That's also bullcrap. Perf Matters is like the number one thing that you can do, aside from just guides and videos like this to knock down other stuff. Okay. So anyway, good luck on your performance journey, and please click subscribe so you know when the next video comes out, and catch you on the next one. See ya.